Folklore says that large shadows lurk across the countryside, eyes glinting in the hedgerows at night, flocks savaged by beasts, big cats on the loose. But is there any truth to this tale? The folklore states that in the 60s and 70s, Britain's elite kept exotic pets such as monkeys, elephants, and big cats. But new laws came in that banned them from being kept, and many of these exotic animals were released across Britain. And since, the haunting shadow of large cats have been sighted across the country, in the past and to this day, with the loss of livestock even being blamed on them. And many of us grew up hearing the stories, and even have stories of our own. But is there any truth to this folklore? There are some parts of this story that are completely true. Exotic animals were kept as pets, and shops like Harrods famously had animals such as elephants for sale. But there were no laws that outright banned the keeping of animals. Restrictions did come into place that limited exotic animals to licensed owners, but this probably meant that many of those who could afford to keep them could also become licensed. But did any animals actually get released and naturalise into Britain? There are species we have seen become pet fads that led to mass releases, such as terrapins, many of which have now become naturalised in UK water bodies. Parakeets escaped and are now pests in London. But many of these species are small and can disappear easily. Big cats, however, have not existed naturally within the British landscape for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and it is now a harsh environment for any large species. As you can see around me, we have lots of farmland that doesn't provide much in the way of cover, which would make it hard for any animals to live here without being found and captured, though they do provide ample food, with many sightings being on farmland and the loss of livestock being blamed on the folklore. In modern times, when lynx have escaped, they're often located within a week, showing how difficult it would be for any large cat to remain undetected and wild in Britain. Now, this seems to suggest that this is all just folklore, and that recent sightings are just big farm cats or dogs, and unfortunate deaths of livestock are falsely attributed. But what if I told you there was evidence so convincing that it cannot be explained? DNA evidence found on a sheep carcass in the Lake District, and it is suggested that the sheep was killed by a leopard. It seems there is something out there. Perhaps many of the stories we grew up with weren't just tall tales, but actual sightings. Now, sightings are still scattered, and photo evidence is still widely contested. The DNA evidence doesn't mean all these sightings are real. Many could still be false sightings, which is easy to do when you suddenly come across an unexpected animal in the wild. But some real sightings could have got mixed in. And there is the other question. Have these animals been out here all this time? Could they be the original releases? Or maybe even offspring of those released? Or perhaps they are recent escapes. Although many escapees have been found quite quickly, people can still own these animals. And there have been some escapes from private collections in recent years. Perhaps one has gone unreported. So we're still left in the dark. This tale kept alive by fragments of truth and the stories will tell in their shadow. Maybe the beasts are gone. Maybe they never were. Or perhaps they still walk among us, silent, unseen, their eyes catching the moonlight beyond the hedgerows. The question is it folklore, or is there a truth to this tale?